Hey, we're all on the same team, baby.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. This is Scott with XRP Army News. And first off, my background with our XRP Army News background, I'm having a little computer glitch trying to get it ready to go. So I'm just going to go with some football players. I'm a big sports fan. We're hoping our sports are coming back soon. Today, welcome, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, your time zone when you're watching this. Today, we've got a very special treat. I met two people now that are heading in the direction of becoming really good friends of mine. First, we interviewed XRP Plumber, and then the next day we were able to interview Stephanie Cannon, and we decided, tweeting back and forth, that what we'd like to do for kind of a Friday wrap-up show is kind of get together with all three of us and have a friendly conversation between the three of us and talk about crypto, talk about beer cold, talk about rioting, whatever comes up. We just kind of wanted to have a weekly recap with everybody and wish everyone a great weekend. So Stephanie and XR Plumber, would you guys like to say hello, and let's start our conversation and see where it leads?
Sure. I'm super excited to be speaking with you again, Scott. I had so much fun discussing all things XRP with another, XRP fanatic. A lot of friends in my circle are not very interested in cryptocurrency. So I really enjoyed our time Monday, and I feel like a lot has happened in 4 days. One of the things I'm really excited about, and I'd love to hear both of your opinions on this, is Monday, Scott, me and you spoke about the XRP lawsuit, and we spoke about how the judge combined them, and I had voiced my opinion that I think maybe she might be throwing it out. It's funny that on Monday, it came out on Tuesday, but apparently on Monday, Brad filed for a dismissal of the lawsuit. And so I'm super excited about that. And I just wanted to get your take on it, guys.
Well, I guess my take is I hope it happens. Simple as that. It's one of the biggest things in the whole XRP space. I know there's a lot of important folks like Kevin Cage and Moon Lambo and everybody that likes to say that it shouldn't make a difference. But in my mind, in my heart, I feel like it does make a big difference. I think the folks that are not as diehard as we are kept on the fence because of that topic. And so if it can't be dismissed, I think the part that's being dismissed is the fraud charges or the fraud allegations, I guess I should say. That's the main thing that they're trying to get dismissed, which is the part pointing directly to Brad himself.
Correct.
But if they do that, that's a big chunk of the whole lawsuit. And I don't know, part of me thinks that they will want to proceed with it to get clarification in the courts instead of in the regulators arena or in the legislators arena. But I mean, heck, I don't have enough information to make that, to say for sure. I'm just guessing at this point. Those are just.
Well, what I find ironic is June 5th, which was last Friday, that's when the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau came out with the regulations for the Electronic Funds Transfer Act, and they specifically mentioned Ripple in that act. And on Monday, he was down at the courthouse filing the dismissal. I thought that was so perfectly timed.
Well, I always kind of revert back to what I like to kind of think of in my mind as my XRP educators. And one of my favorites, and I know y'all feel the same way, is DAI. And he keeps over and over and over drilling in my head, do I need to get my 7-year-old to draw you a picture? And how that relates to this topic is that would Brad Garlinghouse and would Miguel Villas and all of the people who decide, with Greg Kidd, all of the people that decided to go to Ripple and associate themselves with Ripple, do you really think that they would have done that if they felt like they were stepping into a really bad liturgic situation? Now I'm Southern, but I did a lot of reading of Reader's Digest as a kid, working on my vocabulary. So trying to impress everybody with my litigious wording. So I hope everyone is impressed.
Yes, sir.
But again, I'm not as worried about that because again, I just don't, I feel like with everything else that is going on and everything else that is good about the way that XRP and Ripple have all been put together, that I think this is going to be something that is not going to end up sinking the ship.
I don't think so either, because I went on the San Francisco Clerk of Circuit Court and I actually looked up the case and viewed the documentation. And in the documentation, the plaintiff's attorney stated that XRP is not a currency because you cannot purchase products or services with it. But 2-3 weeks ago, I found a website that has over 1,000 online stores that accepts XRP as a form of payment. So I just think it's kind of laughable at this point, and I'm ready for her to just dismiss it and throw it out.
Well, Stephanie or XR Plumber, if either one of y'all know, I remember seeing that there, I think it was, if I get the company wrong, forgive me, but I think it was, wasn't it Binance that had like a MasterCard that you could use and you pay? I remember talking to James Rule about that. He got one of those cards, but he went and paid for $100 worth of groceries, and he was paying in crypto and had exchanged it into cash for the grocery store in Texas.
Oh, wow.
It might have been Uphold, or maybe maybe it's Binance. I don't know, but yeah, I've heard about that. I've been, a lot of folks have been talking about that, and I've wanted to look into it more, but like, I don't know, I just couldn't bring myself to use my crypto to buy stuff yet. I'm not there, but
I'm hodling too. But I'm a hodler too. Well, that's one thing that I'll do. Then I'll reach out to James. I know he's vacationing at his sister's house this weekend, but I'll get up with James on Twitter and find out it was either Uphold or Binance. But I know that I distinctly remember having that conversation because he was so excited that he went out and paid for his groceries with his crypto card. So,
he probably did it just to try it, just to say he did it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. I like that.
Okay, so I've got something that I heard yesterday on a DAI video that I wanted to run past you guys. All right, did you guys watch the one where he was talking about the amount of XRP that certain people have?
I've heard some of them. I'm not sure if the exact one you're talking about.
Did you hear that one, Stephanie?
He's brought it up a couple of times in the last 3 months or so. So I'm familiar with what you're saying, but as of recently, no.
Well, okay. So I'll bring you guys up to speed. And so a couple of days ago, he was talking about I guess the top position is 0.1%. And those would be people like Jed McCaleb. I don't think David Schwartz is in that because I'm not sure from that video that everyone understood exactly where he fell into that. But Greg Kidd was one of them. And Greg Kidd shared in the interview that DAI did that he had optioned $1 billion XRP.
Oh, wow. I saw that.
Okay, well, when I first thought about that, I was like, well, okay, it makes me feel smallish now. But then I woke up this morning and I started thinking about it. I mean, Stephanie, if he optioned $1 billion XRP at that time, you have any idea what the value might have been, just possibly throwing that out there? What did he get it at?
I'm not sure. I know in the beginning XRP was like 0.0003 or, something to that effect. So that's interesting. I'm not sure. I'm sure he has a lot.
Well, he said he's got, if you got 100 billion, he's got 1%. He's got $1 billion XRP.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So XRP Plumber, carry this out here with me. All right, if he got it, and let's, for ease of numbers sake, let's say that he's got $1 billion XRP that he optioned at a penny when he got it. What is it going to be worth if it goes to $10?
Well, if it's $1 billion, it's pretty easy. It's 10 billion.
I mean, what if it goes to $100?
$100 billion.
I
Yeah,
mean,
he's gonna be doing all right if it hits $1.
that's my point. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, this stuff gets up to 1,000, XRP, a penny, and then it goes to $100 or $1,000, and he's got $1 billion of them. I mean, I was trying to calculate that in my head, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm getting this wrong or not, but I mean, this could end up potentially being like more money than has ever been calculated in the history of the world, all combined.
He'll take over Jeff Bezos' spot.
Well,
Yeah.
I think, didn't they say something like that about Chris Larson a while back when right about the 2017 bull run when it was going into 2018 and Bitcoin was at its 20,000 and XRP was hitting 380. They were saying that Chris Larson was like officially like one of the richest people like in America, or if not the world, because he had such a high stake. He has such a high stake in XRP. He I mean, it was just ridiculous how much money it was worth at that point.
Well, again, I'm not even sure my calculator, I don't know if it'll go up that much, but a penny to, and again, realistically, $100 XRP. I mean, that, and then you have $1 billion of those. That, I mean, that it is an enormous, they're not just some of the people, and we're so early on that they're, if this thing goes to $100, and I'm confident that it will, the people that we're in so early, but the amount of wealth that will be created is really hard to wrap your head around. And
I'll take it.
Chris Larson and what's his name, Greg Kidd. I can't even imagine. I believe that those gentlemen have a very vested interest in XRP moving past 20 cents.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I hope that, with everybody's, newfound fortunes potentially, that we stay humble as a community, and I hope that we do something worthy with our fortune. I don't want to see our community get too overly greedy. You know what I mean? Like I've always said, if I ever won the lottery, I would only need like 10, maybe 6 to 10 million to make sure generational wise, my kids, my grandkids, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, we would all be straight. Everything else I would more than likely get rid of. I would give it to charity. I would donate it to schools, because once you get that kind of money, what are you going to do with it all? Like, you'll never be able to spend it all in your life.
Well,
yeah.
What scares me is looking into lottery winner syndrome. They've done studies, and 5 years later, Stephanie, I think it may be close to like 90% of the people that win a lottery 5 years later are broke. And professional athletes fall into that a lot. Most of the people that go like into the NFL and make millions of dollars at the end of their career, they end up broke and in bankruptcy. I believe even Scottie Pippen, a basketball player with the Bulls, I think he ended up having to file bankruptcy as well. So that's one of the things I'm grateful. I'm 58, and I'm very grateful that this potentially has not happened for me in my life yet, because I believe that I'm old enough and hopefully mature enough to be able to have what I would be getting and be able to have enough maturity, like I said, to be able to put it to good use.
That's correct. Yeah, because there's that TV show as well that said the lottery ruined my life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of heartbreaking to watch. So yeah, you definitely need the maturity to handle this kind of, windfall, so to speak.
And I'm also building a digital marketing business, and that I would use some of it to help scale that. So, and then, I want to try to just do good. And again, that's one of the things that I'm really hoping to do as I begin to build relationships with people in the community. And I've mentioned this to both of y'all when we interviewed, when we did interviews. I would like to really get together with some of the people in our XRP community and find some projects that we could go in on and do together. I think that could really be great. And I'll tell you another group of people I'm really scared of falling into, Stephanie, is, money and fame seem to not do very well for Elvis and for Michael Jackson.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to end up like them.
It's true. I don't mean to laugh about it, but it's a scary thought that I think it's really crazy that we get to even think about these kind of problems. I mean, the fact that we're investing into this new asset class, and the three of us probably are most heavily involved with XRP, but whatever we're doing besides that, just the sheer enormity, I guess, the how big it is that this change is coming, and we can even fantasize with some little bit of, plausibility that it could happen. It just blows my mind. And like I said, I don't have the big bag. I'm still working on mine, but I'm further along than I expected to because of this bear market that we just had, over the last, so long. I mean, 2 years now? And it's been the biggest gift to me, even though everyone, I mean, I feel, who I really feel bad for in this space are the original holders. The ones that have been holding for like 4 or 5 years I don't even know who to name first, but the ones that have been like holding, they saw the bull run, they thought it was going to keep on going, and maybe they de-risked a little bit, but at that point, they held on to it thinking it was going to go further, and then it came down so quick, they never got a chance to really capitalize on it. And now they're waiting again, and this time around, it feels, like DAI. He's someone that's been in it since, 2013 or something like that? I might be wrong. But his take was he thought he thought he was wrong, and he forgot all about it, and then it finally started moving again. I mean, that's where we should be at. The people that are getting disheartened and, really bummed out that they've lost on paper, that, hey, I invested at X number of cents and now it's at this level and it's a lot lower than it was. So they're kind of behind. Well, if you're not going to sell it because you're going to lose so much, just sit on it and forget about it. And it'll, this market has cycles, and it'll most likely, I guess I can't claim to know the future, it'll most likely come back.
Exactly.
And even then, yeah. So, I mean, at this point, it's supposed to be money that you didn't plan on using anyway. You don't have to get desperate and say, dang it, I needed this money for the mortgage next month, or dang it, my kids are almost in college already, and I was expecting to be able to pay for the first 2 or 3 years with this. I mean, no. This is supposed to be throwaway money that you never saw again, and that if it worked out, then awesome. You were a genius. You were ahead of the curve, and everyone's going to look at you like some sort of, financial guru, when I know that's not my case. But anyway, that's my little rant about that. So there you go.
Well,
I agree. I think that the original holders, they may be discouraged right now, but I think if they didn't sell at the first bull run, then they were destined to hold on to it for the second bull run because it's going to be much better for them.
Ooh, I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that sounds great. I think that's some good rationale. And I think a lot of the wise ones will probably know what you're saying, but there'll probably be a few that need to hear it.
I'm one of those people that believes in everything happens for a reason. And if you just hold on, you can't lose anything unless you sell. So like you said, just hold on to it because it's going to come back around. It's too big to fail at this point. In my opinion, they've laid the infrastructure, they've put in the time. I mean, the coding alone for this kind of technology, they've been in business for almost 10 years. I think we're on the cusp of where it needs to be.
And I also think that at the same time, we've got on the other side the fiat fractional reserve banking system. It just continues to in my opinion, preparing for a complete collapse. I mean, the stock market dropped 1,800 points yesterday, and it went up 426 today, but I just cannot fathom how they believe that we're going to be able to move forward. And most Americans don't know. And I think we went to 40, I think this is right, on the USA debt clock, we went to $47 trillion now that we owe on the left side of the balance sheet. But then again, that unfunded liabilities part at 147 trillion, I'm not an economics major, but I just don't see any way out. I don't see how America's economy is going to boom back and create $147 trillion to be able to pay for everybody's Social Security. And so we've got to level the playing field. We've got to have a debt jubilee. We've got to have a reset. I mean, that was the number one bit of news that I saw. I saw that reset coming out of other voices besides just people in the crypto community this week, was the verbiage of that reset beginning to show up more places now.
Well, you know, Prince Charles actually, Prince Charles agrees that we should have a reset. He's the one that kind of kickstarted that in the UK for the IMF. Is it the IMF or the World Bank?
Who knows? I'm not sure myself.
I can't remember which one that is either, but I do remember seeing that he was chiming in about that. And again, that's very good news that, again, whenever they begin to talk about that stuff, I feel like they've already been talking about it behind closed doors for a couple of years.
I think so too, and I'll tell you why, because back in 2011, 2012, I was listening to a radio show, and they were discussing having a jubilee, and they said in the next 10 years, we're going to have a debt jubilee just because of the financial crash of 2008, the Fed's printing out money back then to cover a bunch of things. Student loans are increasing, housing market, the bubble, all of that. So when I heard that radio show almost 10 years ago, I kind of laughed. I was young, I was 24. I'm like, there's no way that's going to happen. And here we are almost 10 years later, and they're talking about it. So yes, I agree. I think that this has been in the works for a while, and hopefully it works out for everybody, because we can't continue going on this way. It's just not sustainable.
I believe, again, if we take a look at the way that the existing financial system is there, and nothing lasts, nothing. I mean, everything gets to a certain point, and then we emerge into what is coming next. And that's happened, you know, in everything. We had cassettes, now we've got CDs. We had big tube televisions, now we got flat screens. We had horses and donkeys, and now we've got automobiles. So everything improves as time goes along when we find better technology to do what it's replacing. And the fiat banking system, again, I believe, had its heyday. And I get my biggest kick out of listening to some of the so-called financial experts out there now, because they get on, and so many people follow these people and respect what they're saying, but they're talking about a dead, broken, failed system. And people still go to them and to these traditional people to listen to what they think. Well, here's what I think. how many of the countries in the world, over 100 countries have gone to the IMF and asked them for some type of a financial bailout. Well, if I'm an expert on that, should anybody really be listening to me anymore? It's failed. It's over. It's time to start getting an understanding of what's coming next and help educate people on that. So it's like being the greatest Kodak salesman in the world when we started being able to take pictures with our phone. I mean, it's over. Start learning and getting good at what's coming and what's going to be replacing this failed system. Because, again, $147 trillion in debt in America and 100 banks across the world, 100 countries across the world asking for money from the IMF. I mean, who wants to be an expert at that?
Well, you don't mind if I jump in to add a little something to that?
Please.
Well, the bummer, man, I'm going to be the bummer today. Remember in 2008, banks got bailed out. What's the first thing they did? They started foreclosing on mortgages of the people who were behind on their payments. I said this last time, it's almost biblical in the sense that, there's verses in the Bible talking about how, hey man, you were forgiven the debt and now you go and harass someone else who owes you when you should have forgiven their debt as well. Just because the financial institutions, just because the countries get this debt jubilee, I don't think it's going to trickle down to us. I have a few debts. I have mortgage and basic stuff like that. Nothing excessive, thank God. But even that, if times got tight and it was hard to pay that or something, or like something like expense-wise with my business where a customer doesn't pay me and that trickles down to the supply house or whatever like that, I don't see these banks getting bailed out and then extending that same grace to us. I guess that's the human nature part of me being cynical, and I want to be wrong, and I will be ecstatically happy if I am wrong, because that means that everyone's getting that same, reset that we're hearing about with these countries. Who's talking about, like you said, the IMF, the World Bank, royalty and all this stuff. I know it was the WEF, the World Economic Fund, the International Monetary Fund. The World Economic Forum and the International Monetary Fund. They both came out with those statements talking about the financial reset, but then other people are starting to kind of mimic it. But it's on a global scale. It's this country, that country, the ones that can't, pay back their loans or whatever. But I just don't see it coming all the way down to us. And that's one of the reasons that I'm hedging with these digital assets, because even though the system might change, DAA, Digital Asset Investor, has said it. He foresees a world of hurt for our loved ones that are not preparing, that are still in huge debt, that are not thinking about all of their financial ducks being in a row, and not investing into hedges like the traditional hedges like precious metals, and now this new one with digital assets being a what do they call it, an alternative or non-traditional, something like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm that's my biggest thing I tell people in my little personal circle, or even just within my personal earshot, like people on the street, almost at the street corner, like get your crap together, people. Don't be putting into more debt. Don't get more debt, and don't, live a little bit more frugally, because, we don't know what the outcome of all of this craziness is going to be. And the only thing I know is the people in power want to stay in power. Yeah. And they don't really care if we have a Rolls Royce, or if we're on a bicycle, or if we're hoofing it ourselves. They just care about them having their caviar and them having their, it's just like I'm not saying that climate change isn't real, but a lot of the biggest voices in climate change, get to their conferences on Lear jets. And
Right.
that's what I'm not saying it ain't happening. There's science in there, and yeah, we can debate it all day long. Yeah, I'm sure carbon emissions and all that have to do with it. You know, there could be other factors, but dang it, it doesn't make sense to me that these folks can be so high and mighty about it and then just not even worry about it. Have their 5 different homes, each one of them, 10 times the size of the average person, and flying around on Learjets, riding around in limos, just eating the things. They say don't eat cattle, don't eat beef, because beef is very eco-destructive or whatever they say. But yet, that's the first thing they're doing is doing that prime rib and all that stuff. So anyway, well, the ones that aren't vegans. So,
but no, you bring up a very good point. If the reset comes along and it only affects financial institutions and all the people in higher places, then that's going to be terrible for the rest of us. And that's why it's good that we are looking into other avenues. And that's why I said earlier, I want to remain humble. I want to make sure that I help my, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. I want to make sure my kids are good, and because our loved ones are not paying attention. They're too distracted with the impeachment that was first, and then they were distracted with the Rona, and now they're distracted with the stock markets. There's so much stress in everybody's life that nobody's really paying attention to what's coming. And I think it's going to hit people like a train if they don't get it together.
Yeah, I agree.
I did see today, too, that it said that Mr. Mnuchin was getting ready to encourage the president to send out a second round of stimulus checks. And maybe this time they will institute getting that money to us in a digital wallet or with a debit card. Do you guys think that the government is going to end up giving more money, another $1,200 round to everybody?
They're going to have to. We've got 43 million people that are unemployed. Half of them are fighting for their checks. I'm in Florida, and let me tell you something. Our unemployment system here in Florida is a mess. We've got people who have not paid their rent in almost 11 weeks. That one round of stimulus was great for the moment, but that was catching up bills from March, because in Florida, we started shutting down March 3rd. So we're talking about lots of people are going to become homeless, and they've got to do something. And they need to get a hold of Ron DeSantis and let him know he needs to fix that unemployment system, because it's not working.
Well, and what about, have you met very many people, XRP Plumber, that have been struggling with that? And do you think that will another $1,200 help them, or is that kind of like, peeing in the wind?
Yeah, well, I think both. I think they need it, but I don't think it's really the solution. But I think it's better than nothing. But I do think that there's like with every solution, if you don't think it through thoroughly, there'll be consequences. And I think the biggest thing about it is cranking out another $1,200 per person. So taxpayer, whatever you want to call it, or working adult. If it's more printed money out of thin air, it's just speeding up the process of devaluing the dollar. And the faster that happens, I think it's partially meant as, like they say, you all just said it right now, orchestrating this whole thing. It's, hey, let's make the dollar crash even faster. And people are going to be happy because they're getting $1,200 in their pocket. So they're thinking about that instead of about what it's really going to cause. And it's kind of what's going on all along. All these little distractions they put in front of us it's like, what do they call that? They're in magic. There's a term for that it's the art of, the
art of illusion.
Well, it's of deflecting attentions, of diverting attention. Hey, there's a better term for it. And you know what? Here's my little MO, my way of doing things. I never get the damn quote right. So anyway, it's the art of deflecting the attention from the person. of look over here at this hand while this hand's getting the trick set up. And that's what they're doing to us, distracting us from the real problems in our society, the real things that need to be fixed. And and that goes back to what I said a few minutes ago. The things that it's these politicians that have like endless terms, hence the good life. They're used to just living off of the government. There's some vulgar words for that. I'm just gonna say just off of the people's money. Let's go that route. That's a little bit cleaner way of saying it. But y'all probably have some ideas of what I was gonna say already. But that's the thing. These government officials, whether they're bureaucrats or elected, have gotten so used to living off of our money that they tax us on, or now even print out of thin air, which is still our money. Because the thing is, it's our country, and we're supposed to be the ones that are, have a say in what happens. So the fact that they're just printing money, so casually, it does become our money, because what happens is the money in our pocket becomes less valuable and less useful, because it's going to take that much more to get the basic necessities that we have to have. Like the cliche, the when Germany got out of World War I, they were using barrels of cash to buy a loaf of bread. Venezuela has been doing that lately in the last couple of years. Argentina, I'm not going to go Spanish, but Argentina, they just went, they lost like the value of their currency by like 40% already. I know it like lost 20% in one day, like a year ago or something like that.
Yeah.
My stats are a little off, but you get the idea. The spirit of it is still there. That's what I'm saying with these things, that man, I'm just rambling at this point. It just comes down to they are trying to deflect our attention from the real problems, and these checks are just another way of keeping us placated. That's that thing. They're trying to keep the sunglasses off of our eyes, not see the truth, not see what they're doing to oppress us, so that they can stay living the good life. That's what it comes down to, in my opinion.
Well, I actually was talking to somebody on Twitter, and they said, Donald Trump is the king of going bankrupt and claiming bankruptcy. Who's to say he wasn't set up from the beginning? Say this whole thing has been planned out for decades, right? As we've heard them talking about bringing on digital assets for 2 decades, I believe, is what the senator had said. But anyway,
Jerome Powell said that. Yep.
Yeah. So this has been set up for a long time, guys. And somebody on Twitter was like, well, what if they put Trump there because he's the king of bankruptcy and his sole purpose was to bankrupt our country, so we had no other choice but to go back to a gold standard, and instead of using gold, we switch it to crypto. And I thought that was pretty funny. It was ironic, really. But yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to ask you two about as well is I was driving into town last night, and they were talking about our COVID rates in North Carolina are spiking bigger than they've ever been. And I didn't know how y'all were experiencing that in your states, but it seems like things are ramping up here as they're trying to open up. State news wise, the only thing that's been going on here is they did move the Republican convention. I believe they're going to do it. I think I heard that they're going to do it in Jacksonville, and then it's part of it. And then they're also going to be doing something here still in North Carolina. But have beer cold wise, have you guys been seeing or hearing anything getting better or getting worse in your state? Because it seems to be spiking. We had more cases reported yesterday than we had the entire time.
Well, just real quick, I want to say that I'm in Florida, and they are saying the last week we have had more cases where we were on like a downward trend. We popped up, and now we're going on an upward trend. But my logic says, where are all these sick people? if it was this bad, I've been to Cocoa Beach.
Yeah.
I've been to Treasure Island. I've been to Georgia. I've been traveling because I'm tired of being cooped up. And I don't see a bunch of coughing, sneezing, sick people. I just don't see it. So I don't trust the numbers that they're giving me. XRP Plumber, where are you from?
Yeah, Texas.
Yeah, I agree with you. In Texas, that it shows spikes. It shows, hey, this is the largest numbers we've had in a while. It had been dropping down, but now it's going back up again. Like you're saying, almost. I mean, word for word, identical. And you're right. I mean, it's like, well, if this is the case, well, then why aren't we actually hearing about, oh, hey, so and so just had that. So and so's mom's brother's sister just had this. I mean, in Texas, families are huge, especially the Hispanic families. I mean, dang, 500 plus in any little family. So you hear about everything from everyone. And by the way, that makes it real hard to find wives in little towns. But I got lucky. But but the thing is with that, the grapevine, the gossip is there. It's like, hey, did you hear about so and so's mom? What happened? Bear flu. Oh no, no, we don't hear that. There's none of that going on. That did happen the first round slightly, but not to the extent that you would have expected for the hype and you know what? I don't want to downplay it. I'm sure it's real, and there's people that are actually getting affected and even passing away, and my heart goes out to them. I'm minimizing the whole thing that goes on with that. I'm not trying to take away from their pain, but at the same time, I feel like it's a wonderful opportunity for the government to capitalize on what do they call it? Social engineering. I mean, maybe that's what a little bit of this is. That's a horrible theory on my end. I'm painting myself as a real downer today.
You're starting to break up.
It's Friday too. It's a really nice day, and I should be a little bit happy about it. Tell me again.
Yeah, you broke up just a little bit. So same. I started this round off a little bit, and same here. I in North Carolina, we're spiking. We're supposed to have had yesterday more than than we've had any previous day. And I don't know one person who's had it. Now, granted, I live in a small town, but I'm close to Raleigh, and the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill area is a big metropolitan area in the state of North Carolina. I haven't met one person. And again, I believe that it's real. I think it's more contagious, but I don't think that it's more fatal than a lot of other things. But I'm not seeing it either. I don't know. It's just a mystery to me.
Yeah, if it was so widespread, I think, I go to Walmart once a week to go grocery shopping. I don't see anybody coughing and sneezing in the stores. I don't see people, sweating profusely because they've got fevers. And hopefully not, because you're supposed to stay home when you're sick. But I'm just not even seeing any of that. If you ever seen the movie Contagion or Outbreak, when it's super, super serious, the way they portray it is that, you look out your bedroom window and you see your neighbor checking their mail and they're in a house robe, coughing, red nose, sick. I just don't see that in my area.
Yep. All right. So if we were to wrap up, is there anything in closing that you all would like to say to everyone and on your wishes for everyone having a great weekend? Looks like he got disconnected. Well, if he calls back in, we'll let him have a parting shot. But Stephanie, if you've got anything you'd like to say in closing to wish everyone a great weekend and good fortune for the next week coming up.
Absolutely. I hope everybody has a fantastic Friday. I hope y'all have a great weekend. And let's keep our fingers crossed that this judge throws this court issue out, because I'm super excited to see how this is going to wrap up, and hopefully it'll be within the next week or so. So keep your fingers crossed.
And so XRP Plumber, you're back with us. We wanted to kind of wrap things up. Would you like to give a parting shot and wish everybody a great weekend and a great next week?
Yeah, if you could hear me, because I lost signal, because I got on the road, and I'll tell you what, guys, it was not any sort of powers that be cutting me off for what I'm saying. I just lost signal because I moved into a bad area. Sorry about that. But hey, everyone who's listening to this, thank you. I love you guys so much. I wish y'all the best. This is a lot of fun. We'll get a little bit more organized next time on my end. Sorry, guys. I'm still out here in the real world trying to make a buck. And just wish y'all the best. God bless y'all.
All right. And yeah, next week, what we'll try to do is get together and coordinate a time, maybe a little bit later. So you may have a chance to be home instead of on the road. And the other thing that I would like to let everybody know, I'm having discussions with a few people about possibly kind of becoming like XRP Army correspondents, so they can go out and, because people like who they like, and they're more apt to speak to people maybe that they've already got a relationship with. So we may be having some other people begin to invite people to have interviews with us. And the main reason is because, and there was I think it was XRP Crow put out today a tweet about Crypto Airy, one of my favorite ladies in our community. She was saying that, you know, there's some hypey videos out there, but she really feels like that there really needs to be a space for factual information. And I responded and tweeted in that thread that I like some of the hypey stuff. It kind of gives me some hope. And then I also like to see some good factual information. But my favorite of all are doing interviews, because I think everyone in our community has a story. And if we're trying to get the word of XRP and of crypto and of Ripple out there, we need to have more stories from people in our community sharing what they feel about it, because an 89-year-old grandmother is not going to relate to me about how I feel about XRP. She needs to hear from an 89-year-old grandmother. And thank you, Stephanie, for coming along in our lives this week, because we need to hear from our XRP women. We need to, you know, we've got enough testosterone that's almost wrecked the planet. We need more estrogen. So thank you. So some of the ladies out there in the XRP world, if Stephanie comes a knocking, then talk with her. And let's do as many of these interviews as we can, so we've got a very wide cross section of experiences out there. When people come across our videos, they can hear it in a voice that they can relate to. That's one of the ways that we're going to build this community, is having all of us stand up and tell our story and be heard. So that's my little pitch with that. So anything else from you two that y'all would like to add as we wrap it up?
No, I think that's it for me. It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed speaking with the both of you, and I look forward to doing it again.
All right, we'll do it again next week. We'll coordinate a little better on the timeline, so XRP Plumber can be home if he would rather do it there. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. And again, if we tap you on the shoulder to do an interview, we've done enough of these. Nobody's died. Everybody's had a good time having a friendly conversation. And truly, and I mean this from my heart, to you directly. Yeah, you. If you think I'm wondering, is he talking to me? Yes, I'm talking to you. Your story is important. You may doubt it. You may think, well, who would want to listen to anything I've got to say? There are other people out there just like you, and those are the ones that want to hear from you. And so part of my job now is to try to see if I can facilitate that and make it happen. And with that, we'll say bid adieu. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. There's finally golf back on television. I feel like I died and went to heaven. Christmas in June. So God bless everyone. Take care and live long and hodl.
Live long and hodl.
Like it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.